I was very happy that the Deen Institute was willing to take on this very controversial topic, and I hope and inshallah pray that they're able to host other topics of this nature where issues of modernity, issues that are of great concern amongst the Muslims can be discussed in a frank and an academic environment. There's no doubt that there are a lot of taboos, there are a lot of things that we don't want to discuss as a society, as a religious people, and some of those issues really they do need to be discussed in public. They do need to be challenged, and both sides need to be portrayed. And I'm very happy that the Deen Institute took on this challenge, and I'm humbled and honored to be a part of this endeavor as well.
I think it's critical. I think what the Deen Institute is doing is absolutely necessary to bring Muslims into the 21st century. Without these kinds of progressive discussions, we as Muslims, we're going to be left behind. The Deen Institute should only be more active if possible.
Oh, I think it's absolutely essential. We need these kinds of think tanks if we are going to take our rightful place in the world of science and in the world in general, the Muslim masses need confident sources to turn to, and the Deen Institute can be a unifying organization to provide that kind of insight, because so much is happening. Stem cell research, there's even an artificial DNA that has been created. So we have the potential as scientists to create new life forms that would not have DNA or RNA. So it's like, whoa, let's get an Islamic perspective on all of this, And so that was very much needed. I hope the Deen Institute will continue to be successful in these efforts.
Well, I think the Deen Institute should be congratulated on organizing this event. I mean, we haven't started yet, of course, but just the build up to it and the range of speakers who've been invited to this, and the fact that you have kind of very bravely and boldly gone ahead with this, despite a lot of objections. I know there have been many people unhappy at even the hosting of this event, but you've flown over a couple of professors and scholars from the US, and I've been talking to some of them privately, and of course they see it as a big honor to cross the Atlantic here and talk to a large audience of British people. It's inshallah, I'm very hopeful that there will be a lot of good will come out of this, and as I said, the Deen Institute has to be congratulated for this, and I hope Allah blesses your work and enable you to do more such debates like this. I know that's the intention of the Deen Institute, to grapple with difficult topics, complex issues regarding faith and Islam and religion and the modern world, and this is just one of them, and there are many other issues like this. So I hope this will be a success. I'm actually very certain, inshallah, by the grace of Allah, that it will be a success, and that the Deen Institute will be able to similarly address other topics in the future.
Muslims, I think, we're at a crossroads. We're now, the Holy Quran, of course, tells us to seek knowledge. And evolution is an organizing principle of biology. And biology is a science of the 21st century. And if we don't, as Muslims, grasp evolution, we won't grasp biology, and we'll be left behind. We won't be innovators. We will be consumers. We'll be technological consumers and not innovators. And that's from a utilitarian perspective. If, from a philosophical perspective, if we don't continually seek the truth, then our faith might be in danger in the future, because there are more truths, more painful truths to come that we must be able to deal with as Muslims. That's why I'm here.
We think about why has Allah created us, and I've been blessed to have the opportunity to study human evolution. I'm a human biologist, and when I learned about your conference and realized that I had a responsibility to present the accurate scientific information, and that if I didn't do it, I'd probably be punished by Allah for having this information and not sharing it. So that was really my rationale. It's fear of Allah. I better come, I better talk straight and try to present the accurate information so that Muslims have a broader view and not simply that of our opponents.
Well, alhamdulillah, Muslims need to debate lots of different issues, and especially controversial ones, or ones where we have a bit of a stalemate really, because the religious scholars of Islam tend to be against evolution, whereas there is basic ijma' amongst the scientific community. You know, over 99% of scientists accept the theory of evolution as a fact, and we have two Muslim professors of biology here today. All biologists pretty much accept evolution, including Muslim ones. So we really have to get to the bottom and try to discuss why this is the fact that religion seems to be teaching one thing and science something else. And it's putting off a lot of people off their faith. I know of thousands of Muslims who have lost their faith because of this. They've studied science and biology at school, and then they were told that this contradicts the Quran, and therefore they think, well, they can see that the science and biology is solidly established, so then they say, well, I'm going to reject the Quran then. And so it's a real problem. And I've had several people come to me over the last 2 years who lost their faith like this, who used to be practicing Muslims and became atheists or agnostics because of what they knew about science and biology and evolution. And by the grace of Allah, I was able to help them come back towards faith. And you know, the debate today is an opportunity to amplify those arguments and have those discussions to show that Muslims can grapple with these issues. And we hope, if we disagree, that we disagree with civility and with adab.
There's no doubt that evolution is one of the most hot topics of our times when it comes to trying to reconcile Islam with modernity. A lot of Muslims, especially those that are trained in the Islamic sciences and biology and pre-medicine, a lot of Muslims are grappling with how to reconcile, or even whether it is possible to reconcile this facet of science with Islam. And frankly, it's causing not just a lot of confusion, it's even causing some Muslims to doubt their faith. It's causing some Muslims to wonder, is our religion truly from God, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when from their perspective it seems to contradict certain givens in science. So I felt that there was a very strong need to present the orthodox Islamic position while defending the basic premise of science and the basic premise of evolution. You see, I believe that it is possible to reconcile the story of Adam alayhi salam with modern science, and that's basically what I'll be presenting. I don't view there to be an actual clash between religion and science. I can't see this as being possible, because science is the study of Allah's creation, and the Quran and religion is a revelation from Allah. And it is not possible that the creation of Allah will contradict the revelation of Allah. So I believe that reconciliation is possible.
Well, inshallah, the correct information about evolution, and Allah is the evolver, that will be transmitted to the people, and it will encourage critical thinking, because we are obliged to think as Muslims. That's my hope. And I'm hoping that more Muslims will be encouraged to study science, and because it's at the foundation. This is the century of biology, the 21st century, and we need, as Muslims, to be in the forefront of scientific studies. We need to be making the scientific discoveries. We shouldn't cheat the world of our intelligence.
It is my intention to highlight the dangers inherent in Darwinist and materialist worldview, so that mankind can avoid the tragic mistakes of the recent past, and also to highlight the largely pseudoscientific nature of Darwinism and the errors in its line of reasoning. Hopefully, with careful consideration of the evidence which I intend to present, the audience will be persuaded to embrace the creationist view of the universe, the idea that all things and all life, including human life, was indeed created by an omnipotent and omniscient intelligence for a purpose, and not simply as the result of random coincidences as those who adhere to Darwinist purpose.
I think if I can at least clear up a few misconceptions, open people's mind to the possibility that they're willing to accept evolution, at least for those people who are not sure, at least to help them understand, to make an informed choice for themselves, I would be happy. That would, for me, be enough. Inshallah, we have to be not too ambitious, but inshallah, that's the humble sort of goals that I have for today.
I hope that we will have a polite and civilized discussion. Obviously, this topic can generate a lot of controversy, a lot of heat all around the world. It even resorts to violence and death threats and things all around the world, not just in this country. But we've seen violence in places like Turkey, Pakistan, the US, in America. It's the same problem within the Christian communities there. And that's not healthy or helpful at all. But inshallah, many of the people, everyone here, we hope today, is here to learn and wants to increase the understanding of this topic. So if we can have a civilized and polite debate, I don't think we'll come to agreement on specific points. That's almost impossible when you have over 500 people here. But at least we can listen to each other respectfully, and I hope learn from each other from all sides. And everybody comes away with a better understanding of the complexity of the issues and the fact that there are many different viewpoints, and that for Muslims it is possible to be a devout Muslim, a faithful believer in God and in His prophets and in His revelation, and yet have different viewpoints on things like scientific theories, etc. I think that would be, I would think that would be a major achievement. In fact, even if we can get some way towards that, it would be a significant step, inshallah.
Frankly, I believe that most Muslims have already made up their minds about this issue. I don't think too many people are sitting on the fence here. There are those who believe in evolution as the theory of evolution prescribes it. There are those who believe in the Quranic story. And frankly, I believe this is the majority of our attendees would already be coming in with a particular notion. So for those who are already on whichever side of the fence they are, I think that today's discussion will really not sway too many people because the evidences are well known for each side. I do hope, however, that some of the points that I bring will give them food for thought. It will make them realize that it's not as simple as they thought it was, that it really is difficult to reconcile human evolution in particular, as I said, because I don't have a problem with evolution of every other species, to reconcile human evolution with the Quranic story of Adam alayhi salam. I hope that they think more deeply about this. As for those who are sitting on the fence, inshallah, I hope that the talk that I give will give them food for thought, will give them pause and reflection. And frankly, and this is something I admit wholeheartedly, this is a question of faith and theology. Do you trust the texts of Allah more than you trust the opinions of men, no matter how great they might be? This really is not a clash of science versus religion. It is a clash of who do you trust more. Because what religion is positing is not impossible. It's not against science. It is actually a miracle. What religion is asking us to believe is a miracle. And we as Muslims believe in miracles. We believe that Jesus was born of a virgin birth. Now, what scientist would believe that? It's illogical and nonsensical to believe that a woman gives birth, as a virgin. We believe in the parting of the Red Sea. Now, you tell me, which oceanologist or which, scientist would believe that Moses struck the Red Sea and it's parted? Nobody believes this unless they have faith. What I am saying is that we cannot prove or disprove that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down Adam and Hawa at a particular point in time, and they fit in perfectly into the biological scale, into the biological tree, if you like, that everything might have been evolving as it did, and right when humans might possibly have evolved, maybe, Allah knows best, right at that point in time, Allah Azza wa Jal sent down that species that fits in perfectly into its niche. And this is the story of Adam and Eve. So I am positing basically a miracle. Science cannot prove or disprove. We were not there to see whether this happened or not. Nor can we devise any experiments to figure out whether Adam and Eve came down or not. So what I am saying is for those people who believe in the Quran, that I ask them to believe in a miracle. Right? And this is not blind faith. This is rational faith. Once you believe in Islam, And once you believe in the Quran rationally, right? Once you accept this is a book from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you need to accept the content in the book. And if that content tells you about things that are miraculous, not impossible, note here, the Quran does not ask us to believe in the impossible, in the illogical. It does ask us to believe in things that are beyond our mind. Do we believe in angels? I believe in angels. Can I prove they exist? No. Do we believe in the human souls? I mean, I believe I have a soul right now, right? If you want to deny you have a soul, that's your business. But I believe I have a soul. Can I prove that I have a soul? Can any scientific experiment prove that there's a ruh inside of me and that when I die, that ruh leaves me? No scientific experiment can prove or disprove. So what we are asking our fellow Muslims to believe is to believe in the book of Allah if they truly believe this is a book from Allah. Now, for those who don't believe in this book, if they're not Muslims, or if Muslims are shaky about their faith, no doubt the first thing they need to do is to solidify their faith or to accept this faith if they're not Muslims. So this is a talk, the talk that I will give today. It is a talk for Muslims, by Muslims, and intended for a Muslim audience.
Not just Muslims, but the general public, Muslims, Jews, and Christians, the general public, the layman doesn't think about the details of evolution. I'm a practicing Muslim and an evolutionary biologist, and I've been practicing. I've run my own lab now for 10 years, and I've been studying evolution for over 20. And I can tell you that there's a large misunderstanding in the layman that I hope to clear up today.
Well, I think that the first is the timeline, that they're not really appreciating how old the earth is and how gradual Allah's creation emerged. Even though that's articulated in the Quran, I believe that many of the creationists are unduly influenced by Christian views of creation and have therefore limited their own perspectives because they are intimidated and still imitating other people, not really looking at the Quran and analyzing it independently.
I think the main misconception is that if you accept evolution, then you necessarily deny God or reject God and faith and religion. And that's simply not the case, because most or many biologists certainly are also believers. So nearly all scientists accept evolution, but 40% of American scientists believe in God, for example. So it's simply not true to say that if you accept evolution, you won't have faith. And secondly, no scientific theory or fact can deny God. Our faith in God should be certain, based on certainty, and I'm very clear on that as a physicist, etc. Many people actually even avoid the subject because they think it will weaken their faith. It can't. Any study of the natural world is Allah's creation, and actually brings us closer to Allah, closer to our knowledge of our Creator. I think that's the number one misconception, that you must believe in creation or evolution. But actually, it is quite possible to believe in both, to believe that God created everything through evolutionary processes. And in fact, that is essentially a Muslim theory, as I will show in my presentation. It was Muslim scientists and philosophers who developed this idea over centuries, way before people in the West did, that God created the world and put in place certain mechanisms and processes which led to all the complexity of the universe and of life on Earth.
I think one of the main misconceptions is that certain Muslims might be influenced by those who deny evolution from other faiths. So there are some Christians, not all, there are some Christians who say that there's no such thing as dinosaurs, there's no such thing as pre-human hominids. So there's Neanderthals, there's Homo habilis, Homo erectus, there's many different types of creatures that we have discovered, fossils that we have come across. And so they deny that which science clearly affirms, because they are affected by those who deny evolution from other faiths. From our tradition, we don't have any problem believing in the existence of other species and other creatures that Allah Azza wa Jal created before us, with us or after us. We have no problem with this. We also have no problem extrapolating human history to beyond 6,000 years. One of the biggest contentions that certain Jews and Christians have about the theory of evolution is that it says that humans have been here for 30, 40,000 years, and according to them, we've only been here for 6,000 years. Well, we need to be very firm in our faith. Our faith does not teach a 6,000 year history. We can extrapolate back to 30, 40, 50, however long science wants us to go. Our religion is neutral. We don't know how many generations or thousands of years we have been on this earth. There are other misconceptions as well. I think some Muslims, for some reason, I don't understand why, they feel that to say that macroevolution occurs, and by macroevolution I mean speciation, species coming out of other species, to say that macroevolution occurs is somehow detrimental to our faith. Whereas I see no problem in affirming macroevolution in every single species and every single creature on earth other than that of Homo sapiens, other than that of man, of humankind. That if a biologist were to say, and I am not a biologist, so I don't make this claim, I'm a theologian. If a biologist were to say that all the creatures in this world, all of the living organisms of this world, go back to a universal common ancestor, except for Homo sapiens, except for humankind, well then we as Muslims should not have any problem with any of that. Rather, what we are claiming is that our religious text makes an exception for one species and only one species, and that is us. And not just our religion, even modern science is grappling with some very, very large issues, some very deep and profound issues of those aspects that make humans so different from every other species on earth. We are the only existence that we know of, the physical world. We are the only species that has civilization, arts, literature, language. I mean, we're the only species that actually communicates the way that we do, to the level that we do. We're the only species that has awareness, metacognition. We can study ourselves. That's an amazing feat of knowledge. No other creature studies itself. We can study our context. This clearly shows us that there are factors beyond mere evolution. There are factors that make humans distinct and separate from other creatures. And Allah says in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We have honored the children of Adam. We have given them a special, if you like, place in this whole universe. And therefore the story of Adam alayhi salam in the Quran actually makes not just biological sense, and not just theological sense, it also makes biological sense as well.
This is actually one of the great events in which we are bringing both discussions on theology and science at the same time. I think this is why this is a very special event. I've taken part in events where scientists have discussed this, theory of evolution, how we can reconcile it with Islam. But this is really the first time that we're bringing people who are discussing theology and science at the same time. Inshallah, it's going to be a very interesting conference.
Well, alhamdulillah, the most important thing is to seek knowledge in any area of the world. Any valid knowledge, true knowledge, actually comes from God in the end, because God has created everything. Any beneficial knowledge is all sacred. All beneficial knowledge is sacred. In the Quran we're told, that God taught us how to teach dogs or falcons to hunt, for example. It's in the Quran, مِمَّا عَلَّمَكُمُ اللَّهُ. That is knowledge from God. So, the knowledge of hunting is from God. God said He taught Sulaiman alayhi salam how to make armor. So in other words, metal work. So industry is sacred knowledge also. There's the specific religious sciences which are based on the text, of course, Quran, Hadith, Fiqh, everything else. But it's wrong to limit sacred knowledge to just those texts, because those texts have to be understood in the world that we live in. But what we need is for those studying the text, the religious sciences, to also have in their curriculum mathematics, astronomy, biology, chemistry, economics, humanities, literature, the arts, etc. And if we look back to the golden centuries of Islamic civilization, it was precisely because we had that kind of curriculum that Muslims did so well. So this is a general point, not just for students of religious sciences, but for people in general, all over the world. If you stick to one discipline, you can become narrow-minded and not really get the bigger picture. And that is why there is so much interest now all around the world in all the universities, interdisciplinary research in universities and different departments collaborating, because that fits with our view, I think, that there is an essential unity to everything. All knowledge comes from God, who is one, and therefore everything is connected. and therefore people should try to actually study as many different areas as possible. And if you read Ibn Khaldun or Imam Ghazali, for example, or Ibn Taymiyyah, or Ibn Sina, or Ibn Rushd, you will see that these people had mastered the Quran and Hadith and Fiqh in these topics. They were also masters of things like mathematics, astronomy, zoology, biology, medicine, and we need more of that.
I think it is very important that every person recognizes his or her own limitations. It's important to know what you know, but even more important is to know what you don't know. And what I mean by this is, for example, in this upcoming talk that I'm going to be having, I will not be bringing in, biological evidence for or against evolution, because that is not my field. I am not a biologist. And I think that we do ourselves a huge disservice when we get involved in arenas and areas that are beyond our speciality. So I'm speaking as a theologian. I'm speaking as a person who is, inshallah ta'ala, somewhat knowledgeable of the Quran, the Sunnah, our theology, what we're supposed to believe as Muslims. I'm speaking on behalf of theology, not on behalf of biology. And I think that one of the biggest mistakes that many of our traditional scholars make is that they speak without knowledge, and they make generic statements, be it about evolution, be it about democracy, be it about any issue, without having studied that issue in a lot of detail. My sincere advice to those people who are going to dedicate themselves to Islamic studies is to be aware of what you're not aware, is to be cognizant of what you're actually ignorant about, so that you don't end up saying things that are incorrect, and then therefore bringing ridicule upon yourself and astaghfirullah upon the religion itself. Scholars need to be scholars and not beyond this field, and that is why I will not be bringing up biology, I will be bringing up theology in today's talk.
Well, I think there are many, as I said, evolution is just one painful truth that we as Muslims have to deal with. There's no doubt that the biggest discovery of 2012 was the Higgs boson, what they call the so-called God's particle. And that's a discussion that needs to be had. What does that mean for Muslims? What does it mean for us? How do we embrace that and move forward? That's another intersection between science and Islam, and many, many more. I mean, I think we have many problems to tackle. How do we increase science? I mean, a more practical perspective. How do we raise funding and increase science in the 21st century? How do we, basically encourage Muslims to be more scientifically literate? I mean, these are all, general science. I'm not talking about just biology or evolution, just generally.
The first topic which springs to mind is human rights, Islam and human rights, and within that would be women's rights, notion of gender equality, also children's rights. Relatedly, animal rights as well, of course, but we should look after animals and humans. But within that, human rights is ideas of how society should be organized based on Islamic principles. How are people of other faiths, for example, people who are not Muslim, people of no faith, etc. There are highly politicized understandings of Islam also. Those need to be addressed, but I think one of the fundamental issues there is about human rights. I think that's a massive area which subsumes a lot of other issues within it, and a lot of work needs to be done in Muslim countries and Muslim societies to address that. Because in the end, it's very easy to see the entire mission of the Prophet ﷺ and the other prophets as uplifting humanity. It's all about the condition of humanity, is to give people freedom, equality, peace, justice, to enable them to worship God, because we're supposed to be all equal under God, and we can't worship God truly if we're not free, and if our human rights are eroded, or we're not given our full human rights, then we can't actually worship God freely, because in a sense we're prisoners of society or of the conditions. So yeah, absolutely.
It would be very good to bring in Muslim scientists to plan a research strategy for the development of an Islamicized advanced science. I think that's very important. I think that we should take the scientific information that's available and interpret it and add to that our knowledge of Quran and Sunnah and pray for direction. And I would love to see the Dean Institute bring together the Muslim scientists in the various relevant fields to plan the research agenda for the next 10 years.
So I believe that I myself am also attempting to articulate Orthodox Islam in a modern world, and that we are re-sifting through, looking at what issues of our faith are inviolable, are immutable, that can never change from time to time, place to place, and what issues are malleable and can be fine-tuned. This is a very difficult question, and there are no easy answers. I believe that one of the biggest causes of research that we should be engaged in, of academic research and discussion, is the concept of the nation state versus the ummah. What does it mean to be a Muslim in a modern secular democracy? What does it mean to have loyalties to our fellow Muslims around the world when perhaps our nation state might be doing certain things that are positive, certain things that are negative, yet we have the freedom to protest, to speak against, to show our disapproval of what they are doing. These are not easy issues, and the world is no longer easily divisible into Dar al-Islam versus Dar al-Harb. These classical dichotomies, these classical paradigms no longer exist. And we're now living in a very different world than the worlds of 6th, 7th, 8th century scholars who wrote books and talked about political science when the world was a very different place. And I think that these are questions that we have extremes on both sides. And as usual, Islam tells us to be with the middle, with the ummat al-wasatan, as Allah says. So I hope that, inshallah, a topic of research and topic of engagement will be trying to remain faithful to our loyalties to the ummah, to our commitments to our fellow Muslims around the world, while being productive, useful citizens of the democracies that we live in.
No, I'm just honored to be here, and just say thanks all the brothers and sisters who have come today to witness this great event, and and I just wish everybody just a pleasant day.
Well, I'd like to say, Bismillah, thank you to everybody who's attended. I was amazed to see long queues upstairs queuing for registration. And thank you to everybody who watches this later over the internet or other media. And we hope that Allah blesses all of our efforts, and that this is a means to learning, to help us to learn something and to grow and to deal with one of many difficult topics. There are many difficult issues in the world today, including around faith and politics and mutual understanding of different people, of culture. There's a lot of conflict, a lot of violence actually, and terrible bloodshed all over the world, and a lot of it is based on prejudice, racism, and misunderstanding of each other. So humans everywhere have to collectively come together and have the courage to try to grapple with some of these difficult issues. And inshallah, we hope this is one way to do that.
It's my honor as well to have participated in this conversation and dialogue. And the final message that I'd like to conclude with is, a Muslim always combines between deen and dunya. A Muslim always combines between spirituality and between being proactive and productive in the community. Neither does Islam tell us to go live in caves and worship Allah 24/7, nor does it tell us to immerse ourselves in materialism and ignore spirituality and religion. Every one of us has to find that middle ground, that healthy balance where we have that relationship with Allah Azza wa Jalla. We're praying, we're fasting, we're giving charity, and at the same time we have commitments to make this world a better place, to help out fellow Muslims and non-Muslims, to make the world a better place, a safer place, a more secure place, where all of us together can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in greater freedom and comfort and ease. The bottom line, Allah Azza wa Jal wants us to be religious people even as we live within society, amongst society, and be a part of society. And I hope that every one of us can find that happy balance between the deen and the dunya.